Tell me about the DC-3 floats.
Okay, EDO received a contract from the U.S. Army, actually at that time it was, in about the early 1942 or 3, I believe. And the contract was for 33 sets of DC-3 floats. And we built the original prototype, and the float was so big it was 41 feet long. And we suddenly realized we didn't even have a facility where we put together. And the largest hangar that was on the East Coast was the American Airline hangar over at LaGuardia Airport. So the aircraft was assembled over there at the LaGuardia at LaGuardia Field, and then was flown over to Floyd Bennett Field for testing. In fact, the first model that was put together was to get some JADO evaluation, because they were interested in using it. Most DC-3s operate in the 27 to 28,000 pound load, and we were interested in trying to run this airplane at 33,000 pounds. The basic concept was, because of the type of war we were in the Pacific, we had so many remote islands and places like that, they wanted to do medical rescue work. And then there was a secret mission that they also wanted to operate in Antarctica, but I do not know what the reason behind that mission was. All told, it looks like 11 sets were put on aircraft. I should finish up on the JADO thing. So the first one was put together with JADO, and it was taken over to Floyd Bennett Field for evaluation. And some guy who said he was a high-time float pilot, he had a lot of J3 time, got into flying the DC-3 on the evaluation program. And when they were partway through it, one of the JADOs on one side went off, and the other JADO on the other side didn't fire. And the thing was wrapped up into a big aluminum ball about the size of an automobile, and he lived to tell it, but if you see the pictures of it, you couldn't believe that an airplane could be wrapped up that bad. To the best of my knowledge, it looks like about 11 airplanes were put together. One was used down at Wright-Patterson for evaluation work, and the military had another one, I think, down at Patuxent Field in the Virginia area. And we've got pictures. In fact, I was in a bar in Whitehorse, Canada, which is just south of Alaska one time, and on the wall, screwed on the wall, is a picture of 6 DC-3s together sitting on the runway at Whitehorse, and they were being ferried to Alaska. I really don't know what happened to them, what they got to Alaska or what they went. And another picture I have is of 2 down at Port Moresby, New Guinea, and they were down there, I believe, for the medical rescue end. But there was never a great amount of use on them, and to the best of my knowledge, not a great number of them were ever utilized by the U.S. Army. After the war, one set was left in Alaska, and it was equivalent to the CAP. They had a different name for it up there. And they used it for some rescue work, but the rumor was you weren't supposed to put it in the water, and I don't really know what happened to it. One interesting story, and it kind of relates back to the floats that ended up on Folsom's aircraft, was the military, when they got all done with the project, put up about 20 sets for sale in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't know how they ended up in Cleveland in a surplus yard there, and they were sold. And a junkyard guy in Texas bought the 20 sets, and his idea was he was going to make a portable kind of motorhome that you could have a house on, and you tie 2 of these floats together, and you could put it in the water, and you could pull it in with your little trailer or tractor and put it in the water and drive it around. But when he got around to driving these things home, and he did actually tow them home, he wired 2 of them together, and he towed them home on the aircraft, on the wheels that were in the amphib. They found out the floats were so big, they were over the legal size for the road. So at that point, he ended up cutting up all but one set, which was too bad. And he cut up all the heavy items, such as the struts and the fittings and stuff. And we were aware of the one set because EDO had an interest in putting a DC-3 together, and we thought we could use it to advertise all the products we had. At that time, we were making radios and cockpit instruments, attitude, airspeed, gyros, that type of thing. And then the depression that started in the early 80s came along, and the program was dropped. And at just about that time, the Folsom Aviation, there was a contingent of people that I think you can expand on as well, or better than I can, decided they wanted to put together. So we agreed that we would help them at cost to build the attachment gear for them. And we had all the drawings, and there were some funny instances there too. I called up Alcoa, and I said I need struts, and I don't remember the dimensions, but some of those struts are probably got a major dimension of 8 or 9 inches, 2 or 3 inches wide, in an oval or streamlined shape. And Alcoa said to me, well, we'll make any die you need for each one of them for less than somewhere around $10,000 or $12,000. So we used that as an estimated price to do this. When we got around to building these struts, we called back Alcoa and we said I think there were 2 or 3 different size strut material. We said we would like to go ahead and place the order. The guy said, we didn't understand the struts were that big. We want $125,000 for each die. So now we're in big trouble. We accepted this order from Folsom's Aviation to build these struts. So one of our engineers came up with a great idea. We found that there was 2024 tubing, great big thick tubing that was around, and I remember the dimension, but it was 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick and very, a foot in diameter or something like that. So what we did is we took 15-foot lengths of that and put it in an oven, put it in a O condition, and we pressed it down into an oval shape. And we had dye penetrate and X-ray equipment, so we could X-ray 15-foot sections. So if you look at the struts on the Folsom airplane, they're actually oval sections that EDO crushed down to make them look like an airfoil shape. We made most of the struts and the fittings, and Folsom got a few other people to make some of the modifications. There were a lot of modifications to put into the airplane. And then basically Max and his crew put the thing together, and I must say I'd heard a lot of relatively negative things at the airplane. It wasn't a great performer. And I had the opportunity to fly in the right seat with Max one day, and I forgot what there was in the back, but I think it was 13 or 14 people in the back of the aircraft. And I did 2 or 3 takeoffs, and it came off with no undesirable characteristics. It flew very well, and it was a very attractive float plane. When Max, and I primarily talked to Max, even though it was a consortium of 5 people that put this together, but Max was kind of the upfront guy and did all the guerrilla work. When he got interested in it, we decided it would be a lot easier to find an aircraft that had the DC-3 float kit in it. And Max went through, and I don't know the exact number, but there were, over 10,000 DC-3s manufactured, I believe. And I would check that date to make sure that's correct. We went through, and we were able to find that quite a few, I think there were 30 or 50 of them that left the factory with the DC-3, with the float plane kit in it. So Max ran down every aircraft that had a kit in it. And to be honest with you, there are very few of them left. And when he did locate one, I remember he located one in Puerto Rico that was being used for passenger transportation. In almost all cases, the kit had been removed because it was rather extensive modification because they wanted to fly it at the higher gross weight. So when he ended up locating, he located the Navy version of a passenger transport airplane of the DC-3. And it was a C-50 something, and I'll find that out for you. And it had higher horsepower engines and a little lighter floor in the fuselage, and that is the airplane he actually converted. So that also helped to make for better performance.